mum always told me never to go into the basement. It was one of those steadfast family rules, the kind you don't question as a kid. Our house was old, and the basement was just a dark, stone-walled space with a dirt floor and a single bare light bulb that cast more shadows than light. It was where my dad kept his tools and old paint cans. It smelled like damp earth and rust. I was maybe 5 or 6 at the time, and I was a good kid. I listened. I never went down there until one afternoon. I was playing with my toys in the living room, right by the basement door, when I heard a noise. It was faint, a sort of scratching followed by a soft whimper. It sounded like a puppy. We didn't have a dog, and I had been begging my parents for one, for what felt like my entire life. My heart started beating fast. I thought maybe, just maybe, my dad had gotten me a surprise and was keeping it in the basement until my birthday. The whimpering came again, a little louder this time. I forgot all about the rule. All I could think about was the puppy. I crept over to the door. It was heavy, made of thick, dark wood. I turned the cold brass knob and pulled. It groaned open, just enough for me to slip through. The air that hit me was cold and musty. I stood at the top of the rickety wooden stairs, peering down into the gloom. "Hello?" I whispered. "Puppy?" The whimpering sound came from the far corner, the darkest part of the basement. I couldn't see anything. I took one step down, then another, my hand sliding along the gritty stone wall. The stairs creaked under my little sneakers. When I got to the bottom, my eyes started to adjust to the dim light. I still didn't see a puppy. I took a few more steps forward, towards the corner where the sound was coming from, and then I saw something. It wasn't a puppy, it was a boy. He was curled up on the dirt floor, facing the wall. He looked about my age, maybe a little older. He was making the whimpering noise. "Are you okay?" I asked. He didn't turn around. He just kept making that sound, like a sad little animal. I got a little closer. I thought maybe he was hurt. That's when my mum found me. I didn't even hear her come down the stairs. Suddenly her hands were on my shoulders, strong and tight. I gasped, and she yanked me back so hard I stumbled. She didn't say a word, just pulled me up the stairs and slammed the heavy door shut behind us. The sound of the deadbolt sliding into place echoed in the hallway. Then she yelled at me. My mum had never ever yelled at me before. Her face was pale and her eyes were wide with something I didn't understand. It wasn't just anger, it was fear. It made me sad, and I started to cry. A little while later, after she had calmed down, she gave me a cookie and hugged me tight. She made me promise, really promise, that I would never ever go into the basement again. And I did. I never broke that promise, but I never forgot. And even now, all these years later, I still wonder about the boy. I wonder why he was making noises like a puppy, and why he had no hands or feet. It was a Thursday night. My friend rushed me out of the house to catch the opening act for a band playing at a local bar. It was loud, crowded, the kind of place where you have to shout to be heard. We had a few drinks, listened to the music, and were just hanging out. After about an hour, I reached into my pocket for my phone. Nothing. I felt that little jolt of panic, the immediate pat down of every other pocket. Still nothing. I figured I must have left it on the table we were at earlier. I checked the table, the bar, the bathrooms. No luck. I borrowed my friend's phone to call mine, hoping a stranger had picked it up. I listened to it ring. Once, twice, then someone answered. I opened my mouth to say hello, but before I could, I heard something on the other end. It was a low, raspy giggle, a dry, scratchy sound that made the hair on my arms stand up, and then, just as quickly, they hung up. A sharp click. I tried calling back, over and over, but it just went straight to voicemail. I was freaked out, but also angry. I gave it up as a lost cause, assuming some jerk had stolen it. I tried to enjoy the rest of the night, but the weird giggle stuck in my head. I got home a little after midnight. The house was dark and silent. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and walked into my bedroom, flipping on the light as I went. And I just stopped. There, on my nightstand, was my phone. It was face up, screen dark, right where I always leave it before I go to sleep. My blood ran cold. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, just staring at it. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it. I was sure I'd checked my pockets before I left. I always do. Keys, wallet, phone. It's a reflex. There was no way it had been there the whole time. Someone had answered it. Someone had been in my house. Maybe they were still here. I slowly backed out of the bedroom, my eyes scanning the shadows in the hallway. Every creak of the old house sounded like a footstep. I didn't even grab a coat. I just ran out the front door, got in my car and drove to my friend's place. I didn't go back home until the sun was up. I know what you're thinking. I probably just forgot it. I was distracted, rushing out of the house. That's the logical explanation. That's what I try to tell myself. But then I remember that giggle, that low, raspy sound, and I know deep down that I wasn't mistaken. I found my phone right where I left it. The question that keeps me awake at night is, who put it back?